it for the national team anyways, it's going to be class.
It's going to be a fight to top spot in that group as well. Group B is going to be absolutely incredible. And
Bonkers.
there's so much more to go for. We're just getting live on YouTube. Hopefully, it's going to be redirecting us. It's redirected us. I appreciate it. YouTube, are we on? We're rocking and we're rolling. And we should be recording. Yep, be a live stream, which is great. Three, two, one. And there we go, everyone. We are back. We are actually back again for another fantastic conversation on Friday Night Counter Attack. And we are here. We are rocking. We are rolling. And the main thing for me, Sara, is you're on the podcast, but you're not in Canada. Where are you? Your transfer has been confirmed. This is great to see.
Yeah, busy summer transfer window. It's already begun because I am in Madrid,
Let's
settled
go.
and here. Yes, yes, we have made it to enemy territory.
Oh man, this is such a great moment. It's great to see what you're doing in the world of football media. It's fantastic to see where you are right now as well. That kit is absolutely fantastic with your David Villa aesthetic as well. I'm loving what we've got going on here today. And I thought, you know what, we can't start the Euros without a Euros predictions from yourself and from myself as well. I've done everything under the sun in terms of interviewing different people across Europe. I've been having these Q&As with different people. It's been absolutely fantastic. But we need to get down to what we're thinking on Friday Night Counter Attack. We need to let the people know exactly what we're going for because it's now time to discuss our European Championships predictions for 2024. And Sarah, you know with us, there's never going to be an agreement. If we're agreeing with things, something is wrong with what we've got going on. But as you can see, I'm not wearing my England kit. I'm wearing my Netherlands kit. And you may think it's about Marcus Rashford not being in the squad, but I'm just
Oof.
not so confident about England right now. But I've got to ask you before we get into our predictions, what's your thoughts on Spain? And what's your thoughts on some of the younger players from Barcelona taking more ownership for the national team? Because you've spoken glowingly about Lamine Yamal all season long. Pau Cubarsí never made it into the squad. Let me hear your initial
Yeah.
thoughts, please.
Yeah, listen, Lamine Yamal's first major tournament with the national side, I think he is going to shine. I think he's going to be one of the wonder boys, as they say, to watch in this tournament. I'm a
Absolutely.
bit nervous about Spain as well as you are England. They have some areas that they are lacking, but I think if there's one thing I'm confident about with them, it is Lamine Yamal. I think he's going to absolutely shine. I expect them to get to at least the quarterfinals. And I think a lot of that will have to do with a lot of creation from Lamine, potentially goals as well. Him and Nico Williams on the wings, two youngsters. I love to see it. I think it's going to be brilliant. And yeah, you mentioned Kubarsi. I was a bit shocked with that decision. I understand that, a lot of the time when these managers are making a decision of, whether it's this player or that player, what comes into play is experience. And Kubarsi doesn't have that. But how does one build experience, right? They have to get the opportunity. So, I mean, I think that was a bit of a poor choice from the manager. But once again, we also saw Pedro Porro not being called up. Where
Yes.
is Pau Torres? We have no clue. So I'm still trying to get a bit of an
Jesus Navas made it into the
understanding.
squad as well, which I didn't get at all. Played
Yeah,
as a
Jesus
forward.
Navas probably last national tournament, you'd think. But yeah, it's interesting. I don't have a feeling yet of Luis de la Fuente. I can't suss him out too much because obviously we saw him at the World Cup, but that was, he was very new into the job. So now it's been a couple years. Okay, let's see. You've had time with these players, you've had time with this team. Let's see what you do.
I'm looking forward to seeing what Spain could do as well. Because from the outside looking in, I'm really, really excited to see how this attack goes. You've got
Mm.
Williams, you've got Lamau, you've got Danny Olmo, but someone who you've been raving about all season long, Alvaro Morata, the captain as well. Do you think he has enough support in that attacking final third to be challenging for top goal scorer, to be getting on the end of chances? What's your thoughts initially?
Well, I mean, he's one of those ones that he'll end up scoring the goal in potentially the ugliest way possible, but he'll get it in there. You know what I mean? He knows exactly where to be.
It's
My
true.
concern with Morata is, yes, he was really doing really well for, the the beginning two-thirds of the season, but the final third there, he dropped off a bit for sure for Atleti. And it seems he actually did an interview with I think it was, I don't know, a Spanish magazine, maybe Ola, I can't remember exactly, but he was saying how he actually, if he has a choice, he wants to leave Spain to play elsewhere because the pressure that he gets, and people hate him, and all of these comments and stuff, it seems like it really affects him. And
Really,
that
it's been
concern.
going for so many years now since he was at Chelsea as well. Like his girlfriend at the time was saying he's just suffering off the pitch as well as on the pitch as well because of the missed chances, the memes, the criticism he gets from social media, as well as in the mainstream media. And there's only so much one can take, really, when you put it in perspective.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I don't know. I'm a little bit concerned about his emotional side and will that affect him? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. No, it's one of those things because for me, I'm looking at England and I'm thinking I've never been as worried for an England squad as I have been for so many years now as well with this England side. The lack of character in the attacking final third for me, like they've gone for players on form, which is absolutely fine. But can you really see someone like Jared Bowen or Eberechi Eze making a big difference in a quarter final, in a semi final? Can you really see Gareth Southgate trying to twist it in terms of what he plays? He plays a very basic standard style of play. And it really, really insults me as an England fan to think we've had so many incredible players over the years when Gareth Southgate has been manager, but they've not really played to the best of their ability. Like we're looking at Phil Foden, who's been potentially the best player of the season in England, and he's yet to shine in an England shirt for me as well. Have you seen anything from the outside looking into England that you think, you know what, they shouldn't really be favourites? Or are you still thinking that they could be one of the big favourites for you?
I mean, listen, when you look at the team player for player, I think it's them in France in terms of how deep the squads are.
Yeah,
That being said, I'd love to ask you as an English fan, how do you feel about the defense? Because you're talking about the players up front, but in the end, the players up front will do what they need to do because you mentioned some players that are likely going to be on the bench to start. But when you have the likes of Harry Kane, Jude Bellingham, Phil Foden, I mean, Cole Palmer, I'm not worried about them up front nearly as much as I am in the back because, of course, we know Southgate didn't take his main man, Harry Maguire, and now
big shame.
John Stones has picked up a knock. And from my understanding, he's doubtful for Sunday, their first match of the tournament. And so
Yes.
now you think, okay, how are you going to line up? I'm assuming they're going to have to go three on the back, but they're going to have to put someone in the back that, like a Trent Alexander Arnold, where you're losing potentially his area of expertise, which I actually now think is midfield. So how are you feeling about that? Because this is my biggest concern for the Three Lions right now.
For England, I'm looking at it thinking I don't know our best back four. I don't know our best
Yes.
midfield three, but I only know our best attacking three and our goalkeeper. So from four of the 11 players, I know what's comfortable in this England side going into a tournament. And for Gareth Southgate, who's had an embarrassment of riches, an embarrassment of time to prepare for this tournament, for him to make so many last-ditch changes to
Yeah.
the squad based on form as opposed to quality. Like I've said all season, Marcus Rashford, the best of Marcus Rashford is something special, one of the best players we can see in England and one of the best players in world football on his day. But the best of Jared Bowen, the best of Eberechi Eze, and the best of, for example, Anthony Gordon hit probably the half, the 50% of Marcus Rashford, the half of Jack Grealish, and the half of James Maddison. And then look what you asked earlier about the defense. I mean, we don't know who's going to be partnering John Stones. Mark Guehi's been injured for most of the season. Joe Gomez has been fantastic for Liverpool over the years, but he played a lot at left back this season when Andy Robertson was out for Jurgen Klopp's men. And you've got Ezri Konsa, who's been fantastic for Aston Villa. A big reason as to why they succeeded in defending so well and they got Champions League football. But it looks like Ezri Konsa is being used as a backup right back because he should be starting ahead of Mark Guehi for me because he's had a much better season. And that for me is very worrying because our first game is against Serbia. Dusan Vlahovic, he may not have had the best of seasons at Juventus, but you know he's going to be physical. He's going to be aerially dominant in the 90 minutes that he'll be playing as well. John Stones is not an aerially strong defender. He likes to back off. He likes to let Maguire get involved. For Manchester City, you've seen it with Akanji and Ruben Diaz being that aerially dominant centre back as well. That's where I'm worried about England because there will be times when there will be teams where they don't play tiki-taka football. They don't play out from the back. They will go long. Denmark with Rasmus Højlund, Benjamin Sesko with Slovenia, Dusan Vlahovic. This was a reaction straight away to what we discussed after the draw back in the winter, I believe it was as well. These are strikers that can hurt England, like Olivier Giroud hurt England in the World Cup of 2022. And I'm really, really worried about that personally.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. It's worrying for England. And honestly, over the last few weeks, I think we've all lost a little bit of faith in this team. And I'm really starting to wonder how far they're actually going to go. I'm starting to think that for them, their group is not as difficult as it could be. I think they will get out of their group
Agreed.
quite easily. But I think once the round of 16 comes about and they could be potentially playing Croatia, I have that as my bracket. I think Croatia could beat an English team.
I've said this as well, because everyone thinks Croatia are just an easy team to beat, but we don't do well against Croatia because our midfield is never going to be as good as Brozovic, Kovacic, and Luka Modric as well. And that's where we got ruined in the 2018 World Cup when Rakitic was still in the side. And then that's how we scraped to win at Wembley Stadium in the Euros as well. But for me, I think Croatia could finish above Italy and we could face Italy in that quarterfinal.
Yeah,
That's what my bracket's looking like as well. And you know, with England, when you're watching England, if you had a different manager who was brave at making better decisions, we've seen it previously when he benches Saka for Mason Mount against Italy, and Saka comes on and is the best player on the pitch. And
yeah,
that's what I'm afraid of with Gareth Southgate, because sometimes he has to play the better players to get the best of his teams. And for England, as we've always seen, our best form of defense is attack. And when we don't attack, that's when we just allow teams to come onto us, get an equalizer, get a last minute goal, take us to penalties, and we lose on penalties. And it's worrying to see what we've got with this England side because we're lacking so much experience at the back for us as well.
yeah. Like I said, I completely agree, and it's I'm really starting to wonder. I'm really starting to wonder. Is all I say about this team.
It's true. I'm wondering, I'm hoping more in expectation for this England side as well. But what we need to get onto is our main predictions now, because with England and with Spain, may the best team win. May one of us be celebrating at the end of the tournament. Hopefully, the 14th of July in a month's time, we will be going, congratulations, the best team has won. Who are your predicted winners for Euro 2024, Sarah? Let's hear it.
I haven't changed my mind, I don't think, in the last 2 months, and I'm not going to start now. I'm sticking with France, and I'm sticking with France because, as I said earlier, them and England to me are probably the deepest squads.
Yes.
But the difference here with France is that they know how to win a tournament. They know how to take penalties very well. They have a manager that also knows how to win and to make strategic substitutions that benefits the team. There's also a man named Kylian Mbappe who,
Ooh, not heard of this guy. What's he about these days?
when the pressure is on, has turned the gas on to a level where he has carried 10 other players on his back. So for me, these components is what gives them the edge over any other team. I don't think you can rule them out. And I just think they have such a star-studded squad. Now, the one concern, I guess you could say, is all the pressure's now on France then, right? Because they made it to the World Cup final, obviously, in 2022, but they are, they're a team that's constantly in the conversation, whether they're making the semis or the finals or winning the whole tournament. But this team, I'm curious to see how the pressure affects them, but that is the one downfall of this French side. I couldn't say anything else bad about this team. They are brilliant. They are young. They have pace. They have several players that can score and shoot and create. And look at their keeper, Mike Maignan.
Sorry, I'm just looking at their Olympic squad. Their Olympic squad could compete in the Euros and they could still make an impressive display. The players have left out. We mentioned about Pau Torres for Aston Villa and for Spain. Moussa Diaby's had a fantastic season. He could have been in this squad as well, respectively. And there's so much strength and depth. And there's a conversation to be had about Didier Deschamps. If he wins the Euros after winning the World Cup in 2018, getting to the final, would you consider him one of the greatest international managers of all time, from your opinion?
You know what? I think I would. But what's so interesting to me is that French people don't like Deschamps as a manager.
They don't.
And I'm trying to figure out why, because I'm thinking, guys, you've won with him the World Cup, the top, the best of the best. There's nothing better than the World Cup, and you've won under him, and you've made it to the final of the next one and lost on, penalties, which is, there's nothing you can do about that. It's a matter of chance, really, at that point.
Absolutely.
I don't really understand how they can criticize this guy, because this team has been, ever since they won in 2018, France has been a constant in football. Even before that, to be honest, they were still, a present team.
Sara, what it was when they lost to Switzerland on penalties, they considered him to have no bottle because he bottled it with them being 3-1 up with
Yeah.
75 minutes. And then they lost on penalties to Switzerland because they thought that Euros was there for the taking for them, like it is with this one as well. They had Benzema, they had Giroud, they had Mbappe, they had Paul Pogba, they had N'Golo Kante. They had an incredible stacked team where they lost the chance, like you said as well. And they always tend to lose the chance after the World Cup final in Qatar against Argentina, of course, as well. They just expect so much after the 2018 World Cup. And when I was speaking to a French reporter last week as well, she was saying, we've got them at the highest of expectations because they're expected to do so much for this country. But it's about France not beating France the way that we've seen in previous years, where the best team that can beat France is themselves. They can implode within themselves. And we've seen that time and time and time again. 2002 World Cup, 2010 World Cup. So it's about if they're going to be putting up their top performances as opposed to killing Mbappe.
2006 World Cup.
Yeah, exactly. Losing to Brazil as well. Crazy. No, 2006. They won
Italy,
against
Italy.
Italy. That was it. They beat Brazil. Zidane headbutt as well. Moment.
It's just shambolic. It was shambolic. But no, I know what you're saying. I think, though, a lot of it still comes down to the players, because from my recollection, and correct me if I'm wrong, that match against Switzerland, out of nowhere, the players stopped playing. Like, there was a shift in attitude. And okay, yes, Didier Deschamps is kind of at the head of the realm there, but he's not on the pitch playing. The players have to take some responsibility for that. And we actually kind of saw it against against Argentina in the first half of the final. They were completely, discombobulated. We saw glimpses of it against England as well. I just like and that's why Mbappe was such a factor, because he was like, all right, I'm going to do it. Him and Griezmann, basically. But, there are certain players on that team where they they lose it a little bit. And I don't think that's fair to put that on Deschamps completely.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, for me, I think Portugal are going to win the European Championships. I think they've got the right balance of a squad now as well. I'm not talking about a starting 11. I'm talking about a squad where the expectations aren't on Cristiano Ronaldo as such, just in terms of Bruno Fernandes, Rafael Leao, Bernardo Silva, Vitinha. You're looking at Paulinho, Ruben Dias as well. Pepe still at 41. But the way I'm looking at it is
700th euro.
He's just always going to be there. We'll be at the next Euros as well. Player coach. I can see it happening at 45 years of age. But I'm expecting Portugal, because I've got my calendar behind me. They have a very easy run to the semi-final if everything goes their way. If they top their group, if they win the round of 16 against potentially a third place team from Group F, maybe. I don't know. One from Group D, which would be crazy. And I'm thinking this is where Portugal can actually not rely on some of their individual talent that they have over the years. They can rely upon the plethora of individually talented players they've got. Bruno Fernandes was incredible at the end of the season. Bernardo Silva has been so good. And he's someone for me where I think he needs to start standing up for his national team now, because we've seen it with Diogo Jota not standing up for his national team until is needed. We need to see it from Bernardo Silva with the goals, with the assists, with the creativity, the contribution. And with Roberto Martinez, he only suffered his first defeat for Portugal in a pre-tournament friendly against Croatia. So I've got my hopes on England winning, but my hopes are always crushed with the England national football team. That's why I'm more invested in the cricket and the Olympics this summer for England. But I think Portugal, I think they're going to be a very good team to watch, and I think they're going to be a very big team to beat as well. And I wouldn't be surprised to see a Portugal versus France final, like we predicted earlier this week on our little predictor app that we had earlier, which is great fun to see. What's your thoughts on Portugal for the summer?
Yeah, no, they're definitely up there. I have them going to the semifinals for sure. I think I have Germany knocking them out, actually, but that game to me can go either way easily, easily flip a coin at that point. I agree, though. I think Portugal have gone under the radar a little bit. No one realized that they hadn't lost a match in all of their Euro qualifiers, scoring tons of goals. I get it. They're playing, a team like Liechtenstein, but they're still they look good. And like you mentioned, so many players. The thing is with Portugal is they're not building a team around Ronaldo, and
Mm.
they are doing better because of it. Like, I think for once now, other players have freedom to play. It's much more of a team kind of feeling with them, because before, and like we saw it, teams like Real Madrid and Juventus, a lot of it was feeding Ronaldo, feeding Ronaldo, feeding Ronaldo. And
That's
now,
where they gave him the keys to be like, who do you need?
sure,
What can we do? And that's what they're
yeah,
going to be doing with. I couldn't say they're going to be doing it with much people in the European Championship for the big nations. Mbappe, maybe. I
yeah,
wouldn't even say they're doing it with Harry Kane at England, because if they did, he'd have runners beside him. And that's
yeah,
kind of the way international football is going. It's going not so much going to give the individual brilliance, the keys to the players who are individually brilliant. It's more fit to the system and will play towards it as well. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So we're gonna have to wait and see what happens with this Portugal team. But I need to get your thoughts on one player from Portugal in particular. Rafael Leao. Talk to me. What's your thoughts on him after a lackluster season at AC Milan? They qualified for Europe as they were expected to do. Can we see him shine this tournament? Because he was a great bench warmer, sorry, in the World Cup in Qatar. Came on, scored a few goals. Can we expect the levels to improve for him? What do you think?
I think yes. I think yes. I think with this Portuguese side that's so talented in every single position, I think that's going to allow for Leao to really, create and just play to his full ability, because he's playing with players that are so top class. Like when you have Bernardo Silva in that middle just feeding that ball, Leao's the guy that's going to get there. I mean, I think he's going to have a fantastic performance. Absolutely one of the players to watch.
Preach.
And I hope he does too, because he is a top baller, truly.
We want to see more from these young players coming through and absolutely shining in
Yeah.
this tournament as well. And we're going to go from our predicted winners to our dark horses. So I'm wearing Netherlands, and I'm not going to consider them a dark horse because they're always in and
Don't
about
you
the
dare.
quarters, the semis, and I'm not going to cheat as well. Spain, you definitely can't consider them a dark horse as well, no matter how much they've dropped off from the golden era of Spanish football from 2008, 2010, and 2012. My dark horses for this tournament, I've said it on a few different channels and I've said it already, but I'm going to say it on here. My dark horses for the tournament are going to be Austria. I'm looking forward to seeing how Austria are going to play under Ralf Rangnick. They're a team of fantastic quality players who are no longer big for their boots. David Alaba's not in the squad, so it's going to be
No.
a big miss for them as well. But they are in a group with the Netherlands, with France, and with Poland, and I think they could rather finish as second place team above Netherlands or one of the best third place teams in this tournament as well. Are you expecting much from Austria? Do you think I'm a bit far-fetched with that dark horse? Because I think they can get to the quarterfinals and surprise a few people. What do you think, Sarah?
No, I do not. I don't even think I have them advancing, if I'm honest with you.
That's fair.
Netherlands and France to me are going to smoke that group, because, well, from what I've seen with Poland, I unfortunately don't expect much from them at all. They
Poor Lewandowski once again.
truly, I mean, sometimes it's unfortunate, but your nation just isn't as strong as, your club team might be, and it is what it is. Erling Haaland, look, Rasmus Højlund.
I
But
don't consider them a dark horse because I think that's just me because I've gassed them up for so many years and I think they're such a good team. But I'll allow it to you. I'll allow you to have Denmark as a dark horse because they got to the
no, no, no,
semi-finals last
no.
year.
I wasn't saying Denmark's not my dark horse. No, no, no. I was
That's
more
fine.
just saying, like, when you can't perform at the level that you could with your club, with your nation, and
Yes.
we've kind of seen that with both of those too. But no, I don't expect actually a lot from Austria at all. My dark horses, and I've had two. I'm kind of leaning more towards one, and I've said the same, but Turkey and Ukraine, and I'm leaning more towards the Ukraine actually.
I think so too.
Something about Turkey, I think they're kind of like the generic dark horse, right?
Always.
But they always flop. And I'm trying to figure out what exactly is going to be different this time round. I know there's a lot of pressure on Arda Güler. I think he's definitely going to be one to watch, but we have to remember it was not long ago that he was injured.
Mm.
I worry that, is he 100%? I hope so. It's this tournament is also very scary because we are coming at a time when some of these players, Jude Bellingham, have been playing so much football. And now we're going into a tournament where you're playing for your nation and you want to give it your all. But I think we're going to see injuries, and I think we're going to see them early on as well. And that's somebody that I would be nervous about, Arda Güler. since he was, like I mentioned, injured not too long ago. But yeah, Turkey, I'm not too sure about them. And they're in a tough group with, of course, Portugal, who are the favorites, and Georgia, who it's hard to expect what you're going to get from them.
Their first ever tournament, their first ever major
Yeah.
international senior tournament. So I'm expecting a lot from them. I want them to be qualifying. I want them to be the second favorite team for every single nation. I want to see Kvaratskhelia ball out like he did last season at Napoli. But it's all about expectations versus reality as well. So I'm expecting a lot from Georgia because it's going to be a big hurrah for them. But with Turkey as well, surely it's their time to get their act together. Söyüncü, Hakan Çalhanoğlu has been fantastic for Inter Milan this season. Kenan Yildiz, the other wonder kid for Turkey, who is playing for Juventus this season as well. They're just lacking a number nine, a proper focal point up front. Enes Unal, who was playing for Bournemouth, was a bit part player this season for Bournemouth after the amazing season from Dominic Solanke, and he barely got some game time. So that's going to be a bit of a worrying time for him, missing that match sharpness as well. So I'm looking forward to Turkey. I'll be representing my Turkish shirt and I'll be getting some stares from people thinking I'm Turkish, but I'm not. So I'm looking forward to seeing what will happen with this one as well. Right then, next topic of conversation. Who will be your top scorer for the European Championships? Who are you going for?
This
You can
one,
be strategic about this one, by the way.
of course, you have to be. And there's two that come to mind, but I'm not going to beat around the bush here. It's going to be Kylian Mbappe. I have France going to the final. I have France winning. He is a penalty taker. He can score hat tricks if he feels like it. He can score from outside of the box. I think it's clear that it's going to be Mbappe. I'd say maybe a close second would be Harry Kane. For similar reasons, obviously very versatile and a penalty taker, because you do look at who, of course, takes penalties. But as I mentioned before, I'm not sure how far England are going to get anymore. So I'm going to just stick with what I know. Kylian Mbappe will be the top scorer.
Nah, that's fair. For me, it's got to be Harry Kane. I think Harry Kane will be the top scorer. He'll score a lot in the group stages like he tends to do in World Cups and European Championships as well. The penalty factor will definitely be in there. But I do need to say you've got to look out for Romelu Lukaku, who will be playing in front of Kevin De Bruyne, sorry, when they've got Ukraine, they've got Romania and Slovakia. That's a big shout for Golden Boot. May not be the best player, but he's been absolutely incredible for Belgium over the years. And annoyingly, with Romelu Lukaku, you get such a bad rep for especially what he's done at the World Cup in 2022. Came back earlier from his injury and missed all those very easy chances that a fresh fit via and Romelu Lukaku would be scoring as well, which would be good. I have an outside hope for Rasmus Højlund, as I tend to do, because I think Rasmus Højlund will actually absolutely shine for Denmark this tournament. I think will be absolutely fantastic in front of goal. He can take that England defense on any day of the week. He'll be absolutely fantastic. And for me, someone who I don't think will get a lot of credit in this tournament, but I'm going to throw him out there as well because we can't not really forget about him. Alvaro Morata, Albania, Croatia, Italy. That's what we've got to give these international players who play good for their country the respect they deserve as well. Same with Olivier Giroud in a way, to be fair.
Can I ask you, because you have Portugal winning the Euros?
Yeah.
Is there a chance it could be Cristiano Ronaldo?
There's always the chance, but Roberto Martinez has said that he's looking to rotate him. So he said it recently in an interview that there's going to be 3 group games and there will be times when Ronaldo won't be starting, and apparently Ronaldo's happy with it, but you're never going to be happy being on the bench. And if there's going to be someone like Diogo Jota as a number 9, I think it's going to be great fun to see more fluid creativity from Bruno Fernandes, who's going to be taking the penalties for Portugal when Ronaldo's not on the pitch as well. Outside choice, but not one of my favorites, I'd say, for Cristiano Ronaldo, which would be great fun.
Fair enough. All right.
Best player. Who's going to be the best player for you to watch at the European Championships that you haven't mentioned already? We mentioned Mbappe, we mentioned Harry Kane. Who's a player that you're looking forward to watching at this tournament and why?
Antoine Griezmann.
Had to be.
It's a must. Yeah. Well, listen, I'm trying to be strategic with these answers as well, because as I mentioned, I have France winning. So if I'm looking at a player that's going the distance, what we've seen from Griezmann this season at Atleti is nothing short of nearly a miracle, because we've spoken about it time and time again, but had this resurgence.
Carried them.
Yes. And what we saw at the World Cup 2 years ago, besides Kylian Mbappe, the metronome of that French team was Griezmann. So I
Griezmann.
think he's going to be crucial for France. And because I think they should win it all, at least get to the final, I think it could be him. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on Jude Bellingham.
There's always pressure. Did you see that recent Adidas video, the promotion? You got
I
David
loved
Beckham.
it, but I
You
was
got
like,
David Beckham looking sad. You had Lampard looking sad,
yeah,
and then you
yeah.
got Bellingham, and you're just like, what if Bellingham ends up sad after this tournament as well? It's a poor
I
marketing campaign.
well, it was a bit heartwarming for a moment because it's
Absolutely.
it's a great song and it was sad and then they got happy, but then I was like, they're basically saying, Jude, it's on you. And then I was like, wait a minute, he's 20 years old. Like, I,
Unreal.
yeah, I think
Absolutely
they could have
unreal.
done a bit better with that. I'm a bit worried about him. Yeah. But I think Bellingham is a good shout for the best player, but I'm staying away from all English things in this preview.
Nah, that's fine with me. Allow me to introduce my player to watch who
Yeah.
I think is going to be shining for England, and it's going to be Bukayo Saka because Bukayo
Oh,
Saka doesn't get the credit he deserves. He's actually one of these young players that have come through, Jadon Sancho, Phil Foden, Jack Grealish, James Maddison, who has absolutely earned his position in this England team, and it's unquestionable that Bukayo Saka is absolutely one of the fan favorites for England, but he doesn't get a lot of credit where it's due. And we recently saw that kind of hate campaign against Bukayo Saka in that game against Iceland, which I thought was absolutely disgusting. But Bukayo Saka, I'm ready to see what is about in this European tournament. I'm ready to see him start every game because we're used to seeing Raheem Sterling starting a lot. We're used to seeing Phil Foden starting a lot. But Bukayo Saka, no one can take him out of that right wing position. Not Foden, not Palmer, not Jared Bowen. No one can take Bukayo Saka away from that right wing position at England. And I'm looking forward to seeing him shine. I'm looking forward to seeing him shut up some critics. And I'm really looking forward to seeing him link up with Harry Kane, with Trent Alexander-Arnold, with Jude Bellingham, because he tends to get forgotten about for England because we just know he's good, but he's not good. He's absolutely fantastic. He's great for his age as well. There's so much more that will come from Bukayo Saka in this tournament. And for me, as an England fan, he's the one player that excites me the most in the starting lineup. It's not Bellingham, it's not Kane, and I'm not an Arsenal fan, so people know this already. But I love watching Saka play for England because he has that ownership about him, and he loves to just play with a bit of freedom in his game as well. And there's a big, big threat going forward for England. And England don't have many of those in the attacking final third. Not world-class threats. I'm not saying Saka's world-class, but he's a very big threat for England on that wing.
yeah, I really hope he does have a great tournament regardless of if he wins or not, because I think what the English media has done to this poor boy, and I'm going to use the word boy
Still
because
is to an effect.
he's young. It's really just sickening, and I hope you're right, and I hope he does shut the critics up, because yes, we know he's an absolute superstar of a player, but whenever things go wrong, it always seems to land on Saka's shoulders. I mean, that game against, you saw the headlines, of course, after the Iceland loss, and I was thinking, didn't Saka play like 20 minutes of the match? Like, I was just,
Everyone
no,
said the
it
same
is.
thing. It makes
Well,
no sense.
it's bad journalism is what it is. Like, it's
Very lazy.
obviously it's racist, but as well as, I'm like, it's not even factual. Like, come on. So I don't know. To me, I couldn't be in more agreements with you. Oh my goodness. But yeah, I love Bukayo Saka and I hope he shines.
Nah, so good. Nicely done. Right then, we've got we've got three more topics, but they're going to be fun topics as well. Wonderkid to watch. This may be one where we agree. I'll be fair. We may agree on this one.
There's only one. There's only one. Lamine Yamal for sure.
For me, I want to talk about Works. I want to talk about Musiala, but I've
Yeah,
seen more of them this season, and I know what they're about. I've
yeah.
not seen Lamine Yamal play for Spain as much as you have. Educate me and educate our audience on what to expect for Lamine Yamal at this tournament, because I'm ready to see him shine, as I saw him shine for Barcelona back in May. Incredible player. Love watching him play too.
Yeah, I mean, it's I always say this, but it's the confidence he plays with for a 16-year-old. It's incredible. It's as if
Still 16.
yeah, like he's 16 until I think the middle of July or something. So halfway through the tournament or just about the end of it. But he plays as if he's 26. He plays as if he's been doing this for, 8 years or so. And I've said this, and I don't want, again, people to think that I'm saying that he's going to be Lionel Messi. No. But the way he drags these players out it does give me a little bit of a glimmer of what Messi used to do at Barcelona. Of course, they played on the same team, so maybe that's also something else. But he has this really beautiful, almost organic talent that I think. I mean, of course he does. He's 16 and he's doing this, right? Like there's still chance for him to improve, but if he's at this level already, it's something inside of you, in my opinion. And
There's
yeah,
just some things that you can't coach that Lamine Yamal
yeah,
has in his game already. What he's got in his locker is absolutely incredible. And I like that little did you see that little advert with Lamine Yamal taking the ball out the locker recently as well? That's why I wanted to use that line because it's just so, so good. And
no, that's
16
great.
years old, he's got so much to prove to people, but he's proved so much already at just 16 years old as well. Do you think he's the key danger man for Spain in that group? What do you think? Main man already.
Yeah, and I think he's the game changer in general because I mean we are in a new era of Spanish football. I think last time around was the final for Busi and Jordi Alba, and that was kind of like the last of the previous generation, right?
The
So
last dance.
there's a big shift, and I mean, I think it comes down to him and probably Rodri. A massive player for Spain, truly, but I think a lot of the creation will come between these two. Rodri's going to find Lamine somewhere and he's just going to make those beautiful runs. And also he's brilliant at, crossing it into the area and finding, let's say a Nico Williams and Alvaro Morata. But I think expect him to play every game, expect him to start every game. And I think that's great because it shows that they trust him, the team trusts him, the manager trusts him. And I think he's going to be brilliant. I hope Spain, I mean, for personal reasons, obviously,
And
I'd
more
love.
importantly, you trust him.
Yes. No, I'd love to see Spain win the whole thing, but I would also love Spain to just go far so people can see Lamine Yamal because he will
Absolutely.
be brilliant.
Nah, it's great to see. And it's always that tournament where you see someone just light up a tournament as well, where we've seen it in previous years with Wayne Rooney in 2004 for England. We've seen it in 2008 when you've seen Xavi and Iniesta come to the international stage and they flourished in that game against Germany in the final with Fernando Torres just balling out with that amazing finish. Seen it in 2012 where Mario Balotelli came onto the scene in international football with that iconic celebration against Germany, then losing to Spain in the final. And even with Wales as well in 2016, they didn't really burst on with Gareth Bale, but they had a fantastic time with that team as well. Oh, this is great. This one's a bit of a tricky one, but I know you've got someone in mind for this one. Which player has got a point to prove for their country, for their career, and for their club at the European Championships? Who's got
Oh,
a point to
which
prove?
player, not
Who-
team? I was thinking about a team. Okay,
I was
which
going to go manager, but I think manager it'd just be Gareth Southgate because he's just a bottle job. I wouldn't take him anywhere after
yeah,
this.
no, it would be. Which player has a point to prove? Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of pressure over here in Spain. I'll tell you that much on Alvaro Morata.
Yep.
That's an easy one right now. I'm just coming off the top of my head. I didn't have a prepared answer for this one.
I'll
He
I'll hear your country as well afterwards as well, just so we make it
Yes.
nice and hard.
I think there's a lot of pressure on him to really perform. And yeah, he's constantly criticized over here because it seems like you either get the best or the worst. There's no kind of middle ground with him. So I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on him. I'm trying to go through some of these other teams. I mean, I'm trying to think on who Italy, like there's probably a couple Italians here that need to prove themselves. And I'm not sure if it would be a Federico Chiesa, not because of he's arguably maybe the most talented player on that team, but because Italy haven't done so well since they last won. Would that pressure then transfer to a player like that? I'm not too sure, but do tell me who you think is a player that has a point to prove.
It's going to sound odd when I say it, but I'd like you to hear my reasonings. Phil Foden and Kevin De Bruyne, one for Belgium and one for England.
Yes,
Because
KDB,
Phil,
I can see that.
KDB hasn't been great for Belgium since the 2018 World Cup, where he got them to the semi-final with Eden
Yeah,
Hazard. But the golden generation were in full effect in that tournament, only losing to France in the semi-finals. And we've seen him miss out on big games and big moments. He gets subbed early in the FA Cup final, always injured in finals, which is very worrying to see. In the Euros last time around, when it was the last of a lot of their golden generation, they still didn't stand up against Italy, and Italy just played they just played with them really, and they won. I think it was Insigne that scored that winning goal as well. But Kevin De Bruyne has a lot to prove for Belgium in this tournament. We've seen him do it so many times for Manchester City. He's in the perfect system under Pep Guardiola, but this is where we have to see the nitty-gritty of Kevin De Bruyne. We have to see him shine at the national stage because we know that their country are craving for some international glory. They've been touted as one of the best teams in world football with nothing to prove for it as well. And it's very worrying to see if Kevin De Bruyne goes down without actually going to a final of an international tournament. We've seen Modric do it previously. We've seen Paul Pogba do it previously. We've seen Xavi and Iniesta do it previously. All the greats have done it, besides English ones and Kevin De Bruyne, who's also going to go down as one of the greatest midfielders of all time. And my reasoning for Phil Foden, actually, you're going to say something. So, Kevin De Bruyne.
No, I'm curious about Phil Foden. I agree about De Bruyne completely.
Phil Foden is the opposite from Bukayo Saka because whenever Phil Foden has a bad game for England, no one highlights it. No one highlights it in the media, the pundits, the journalists, reporters. No one says anything. And he's been stinking it up for England for so, so long because he's, again, used to such a big system at Manchester City where they can play to his strengths. But with Phil Foden, if he's going to be playing in a 10 and Harry Kane, as you know, drops back into midfield to collect the ball as well, you've only got Bukayo Saka and maybe a left back on the wing for playing it out wide. And it doesn't really work well. So we're going to have to see a different side, a different animal to Phil Foden because he can't be playing the same way in this England side unless Gareth Southgate really changes it for him. And I think under a different manager, Phil Foden will absolutely shine. But we've had this conversation all season long, Sarah. With Phil Foden, we get the best out of him as a number 10, but we know Jude Bellingham is going to be playing there as a number 10. And Southgate isn't going to risk playing Foden and Bellingham behind Harry Kane with just Declan Rice in that midfield. So from what you're looking at, are you thinking Phil Foden is playing out of position for this England side? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it potentially. I just think it would. So how are they going to line up? Sorry, I'm just trying to think right now. How is Gareth?
It's allegedly going to be Declan Rice and Trent Alexander-Arnold at the base of midfield. Then you got Jude Bellingham in the 10, Saka on the right wing, and Foden on the left wing with Harry Kane up front as well.
I mean, how else are you going to do it though?
That's the thing. It's trying to fit all of these great players into one team, and you can't play Saka at left wing. You can't play Foden right wing. Maybe you play Bellingham in a 8 where he was playing for Dortmund and where he's played previously, but then you don't get the best of Jude Bellingham as well. So it's a very, very difficult situation. But for me, I'd like to see him stay on the left, but have someone who's actually fast on the left wing. We can't have Kieran Trippier as a left back because he just won't overlap at all. He won't underlap at all. And that doesn't give
support on that side too. Yeah,
absolutely. Otherwise, he just drifts in field and it becomes like just a low block, and you can't really take on anyone at all.
And this comes back to our point of England having issues in the back.
Always having issues, unfortunately. Luke Shaw doesn't look like he's going to be fit for the first game, so we're going to have to wait and see what happens there. Finally, point to prove countries. Which country do you think has a point to prove?
I think there's a few you could put, and I think one that comes to mind immediately is, of course, England.
Absolutely.
I think that genuinely, if they don't win with the team that they have, first of all, Southgate needs to be sacked the moment he walks into the tunnel. Like the moment he leaves them. They should throw the
P45 at him straight away. His resignation should be done and dusted as soon as he shakes hands with the opposition manager.
Genuinely, I really don't know how he's still there, but I think he would have to go immediately. Like this team is too good, and they've been too good for too long to not win anything. And also, like, I'd say if English don't really even make the final, that's also a failure. Like they should, I guess they have to make at least the semis, at least the
minimum.
Semis.
Minimum.
That's the minimum. I'd say Germany have a point to prove. Obviously, it's home. It's a weird time for them because they're coming off of a really poor World Cup and then a really poor run of games and run of form. And then all of a sudden in the fall, Toni Kroos says, "I'm coming back." And then they turned this corner, but I don't know how far they've turned this corner. They, after press conferences with Ilkay Gundogan and Julian Nagelsmann, sorry, I'm not confident in them anymore. They don't seem confident in themselves, but this is Germany. This is a team where Toni Kroos decided to come back from retirement. This is a team with Jamal Musiala, Florian Wirtz, Ilkay Gundogan, Joshua Kimmich,
Kai Havertz, the comeback kid this season.
Kai Havertz, exactly. I mean, it's a solid team, and there's a lot of pressure on them, but I think they absolutely have a point to prove. And finally, I'm going to have to say Spain as well, because Spain have not been good enough after their golden era. And it's not that they've not been good enough, but they've just, the way they've been eliminated from tournaments the last,
Penalty shootouts. I thought England were bad at penalty shootouts, and Spain have just
oh,
taken up to a
like
whole new
it's
level.
like watching it repeat, like Russia, and then again with in 2018, and then again in 2022. It was like, is this like, it was just taken and put in, I don't know, like I don't even have words, because I was thinking like, surely
I mean,
he,
I just need to see Spain taking penalties in their training videos now. That's all I need to see them practicing.
yeah. But
Literally.
no, they're, I think they're still, like, according to the bookies, the fifth favorite to win. I don't really know how. I mean, because you look at the talent and you're like, yeah, but they've lacked a lot of
Cutting edge recently.
cutting edge and all, like, identity almost. And they've not been that team that they once were. And there's, with the players they have, I think they should be better. So I think they've had a point to prove for the last 6 years, and I'm still waiting to see if they do it. So yeah, there's a couple answers there. What do you think? Who's a team that,
England were definitely my one because,
yes,
again, England are always favourites at a time where it's convenient for them, but they never deliver on the big occasion. They are like my Hermes driver who just never turns up because he's gone to another address, which is very, very bad for them as well. The other team is Netherlands, because Netherlands, they're always in and about it as well, but they've actually got international pedigree. They've actually won a few trophies in their
yeah,
history, and they never seem to pick the right team. They never seem to have the right manager at the right time. And former Barcelona manager and former Barcelona legend Ronald Koeman, he's had two big injuries this week: Frankie de Jong and Koop Miners from Atalanta. And
yeah.
what has he done? This made me choke when I saw him bring Joshua Zirkzee and Matson in. So he's replaced two centre midfielders, his first choice centre midfielders, for a left back when they've got three already, and a striker as they've got four already. And they play a 5-3-2 system. How does that work for Netherlands? I don't get it.
Let me tell you one thing about Ronald Koeman. He doesn't know what he's doing.
Oh, my days.
Like,
He is
first of all, did you see
clueless.
the whole comment regarding Frankie when he was basically announcing that he was injured and he's going back? He can't even say the word Barca.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I need you to, not be a 4-year-old kid and be an adult about, like, he takes things so personally. He's
He
so,
holds so many grudges too from like
yeah,
10, 15 years ago. It's
but
crazy.
this is what's going to get you in trouble at the World Cup, in my opinion. And
He
look what,
shouldn't be a top manager anymore, Ronald Koeman, for me. It's
absolutely.
embarrassing.
Well, look at what happened to Van Gaal.
Yeah.
You go and talk about Messi. Like, don't get involved with the players. Like,
Move on with it. Move on with
is
it.
it something about Dutch managers where they're just very overly sensitive?
They're very sensitive. They're very over emotional. They wear their heart on their
Yeah.
sleeve. And then it comes out on their players. And then their players are like, okay, cool, we'll try and follow that. And then they just lose their heads on the pitch as well. And they get to semi-finals, they get to quarterfinals, and then they're always the nearly men. And it's very worrying to see why they're always the nearly men too, which is very, very annoying for me.
Yeah.
And I want to see them shine. I want to see Xavi Simons have a fantastic tournament. I want to see Jeremy Frimpong ball out like we've seen for Bayern Leverkusen. But you know for a fact, Xavi Simons is going to be sitting on the bench because they're going to be playing like Bergwijn, who was great 4 years ago. They're going to play
I
Denzel
hope
Dumfries.
not. I really hope you're wrong. I
They
actually,
deserve to start. That's the thing. They deserve to start. They're fantastic footballers, and we just need to see them shine. But we know
so
what Ronald
Xavi has
Koeman's
to be
like.
starting. If he's not starting, like Van Gaal was doing this to him and he wasn't starting, but
Mm.
hopefully Koeman has some more sense. But I would, like, do they want to lose? Like, how are you not starting your best players? To me, it's so black and white. It's common sense at this point.
It's true. There's so much to look for at this Netherlands team as well, but they've got a big, big point to prove at this tournament as well. One person who's also got a big point to prove is yourself, Sara. You've got to prove to me why you're the GOAT of football hosts in Madrid right now as well. Because again, you've been absolutely killing it this season as well. Before we wrap up, I just need to get your thoughts on record as well. What's your thoughts on Marcus Rashford not making the England squad?
I mean, let's be serious. He didn't have a great season. He didn't. But he is a big game player when he is fit and when he turns up, right? I think the thing is with England, and it's a good situation to have, but there were so many players to pick from. So I think when you look at the likes of a Marcus Rashford and, well, I mean, Jadon Sancho, in my opinion, too, who actually was performing,
Mm.
maybe should have had a seat on that plane over Rashford just because Rashford just hasn't been playing. Um, I know when he does turn up for Manchester United or for England, we have seen an absolute, star of a player. But I think it's just poor timing. I can't blame Southgate for this one because there's too many players that are just in form.
It's true. Because for me, my argument has always been with England, he always sees the players differently. And we've seen Harry Maguire have awful times as a player at Manchester United, but he
Yeah.
always starts him. And we've seen Jordan Henderson, who's playing in Saudi Arabia, still get called up to the squad. He's not in the Euro squad, but he's always made it into the squad as well. And I'm thinking this is kind of where it's a bit of a favoritism thing for me. And just like we mentioned about Ronald Koeman, his favoritism and his pragmatic way of thinking is going to get Southgate sacked if he doesn't win this tournament as well. And there's so much more that we could have seen with these incredible players like Jack Grealish, James Maddison, Marcus Rashford, even Harry Maguire to an extent as well.
Yeah.
And for me, that may be the cost of Gareth Southgate's job for England as well, because there's some fantastic players on form, but they're not going to be challenging Jules Koundé. They're not going to be challenging the likes of Bastoni at Italy. They're not going to be challenging Ruben Dias. They're not going to get past them because they can't do it in the Premier League. They can't do it in the Champions League. It's going to be very, very difficult for these squad players for England to actually compete as well, which is
Yeah,
very great.
absolutely.
That's all good. But thank you very much for your time. As always, pleasure as always to speak to you. You are no doubt going to smash it in your new role in Madrid, and I'm looking forward to be speaking with you across the tournament, which will be absolutely fantastic. I know our sweepstake is going to happen soon, which will be incredible. And I wanted to ask you one more question. Is it coming home, like Travis said?
It's not coming
I
home.
didn't think so. It's not coming home.
I
More
think
chance of it going to
if I
Rome.
thought it was, I don't think I would be able to say it. But no, I almost think I had more faith in England during the World Cup than I do now. And maybe
They're the
they'll be
better team
wrong.
in the
Who
World Cup.
knows? But nah, I don't think so. Sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. I'll let you go and enjoy the festivities tonight. Enjoy
Yeah.
the tournament. Make sure you're having fun. And everyone, I want to say thank you very much for watching this live stream. We're going to put it out on our socials as we always do. Follow us on our Friday Night Counter Attack channels. Follow Sara Pararia on her social media channels. As always, enjoy Euro 2024. There will be twists, there will be turns, there will be ups, there will be downs, and there will be some incredible moments that we'll be savoring for the rest of our lives as well. Euro 2024. Let's go. We're here for it, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll see you next time.